In the latest episode of Yellowjackets, Shauna reveals two people who don't make it out the wilderness. We meet the people who, in the last episode, seemed like they could be the potential reason why the Yellowjackets got out of the wilderness. And on top of that, we're slowly but surely getting to the point of Hilary Swank appearing, as well as finding out who is Shauna's stalker. So, starting in the past, it is revealed to us that the people who discovered the Yellowjackets camp are Hannah, Edwin, and Kodiak. Kodiak, or Cody, he's supposed to be that guide throughout the wilderness, as Edwin and Hannah, who are researchers, are looking for a specific kind of frog. This frog, which makes noises that seemingly are the wilderness that Lottie hears, make that noise that she's so familiar with when they're doing mating. Hannah, who records the sounds and that's her focus on the research, she takes in all this sound and has this little flirtatious thing with Edwin, who I think might be a boyfriend. It's hard to say. Maybe he wants her to be his girlfriend. I don't know. They don't have the interesting kind of chemistry, much less we don't spend enough time with them to really get the feeling that maybe they should be together. Especially because after some point it seems like Hannah has much more of an interest in Cody, but that's just my take. The point of the matter is, Edwin, Hannah researches, Cody is a guide, and it is revealed to us that the cache of stuff that been found previously, that's from a previous research group, but what isn't told to us is whether or not, when it comes to Cody and his adventures, or even whether it be on his own or with Hannah and Edwin, whether or not he is aware of the man in the cabin who died, the airplane that was found, or any of the other weird things that potentially may have explanations. Sticking with the past, when Edwin, Hannah, and Cody walk in on the Yellowjackets camp, Hannah is recording everything. And with that, she hears Van being happy that they're being saved. She gets the screams of seeing Lottie kill Edwin with an axe. And from that point on, Hannah and Cody split. Cody gets chased by Akila and Travis, who end up saving his life and ask in return to potentially be taken to civilization. And as for Hannah, everybody else focuses on her, and the question becomes what to do with her. And unfortunately, as we learn in the modern times, she got killed, but it's not clear who she got killed by, why she got killed by, never mind how she was killed. The only thing we know for sure is that she died, and somehow the tape of all that she's recorded of the Yellowjackets got back to civilization, potentially got into the hands of Alex, who is Hannah's daughter, who she had as a teenager, and now it's leading to Shauna and her friends and extension sometimes being harassed. Which brings us to modern times. Misty gets quite a bit of information this episode, which leads to her going from focusing on Thaisa to focusing on Shauna. So when it comes to Thaisa, based off of what Lisa said, that is what she's operating on. And when she confronts Thaisa, Van admittedly seems willing to have some type of doubt regarding Thaisa being innocent. But with Thaisa doubling down, saying all she did was speak to Lottie, mainly because of her feelings for Van and trying to figure out a way to potentially save her, since they became adults, Van and Thaisa kind of swapped things when it came to their spiritual beliefs. That is why she met with Lottie, and unfortunately, that's the beginning and end. But once Misty finds out about this tape, and then everybody converges with Shauna, they find themselves going on a road trip to Richmond, Virginia, where after Shauna did her own type of investigation, she believes Hannah's daughter Alex is. Now, on this journey, Walter, he sends information over to Misty that reveals that underneath Lottie's nails, from when Misty was doing her investigation on the place where Lottie died, it has Shauna's DNA under it. With that, Misty's texting Thaisa, Van gets involved, accusations once again are flung, and the only thing that stops them is that Van begins to cough up blood, and with that, they go to a hospital. As Van's in the hospital, she encounters her younger self in a hallucination. Doc Thais also talks to her about potentially saving her, a life for life. A lot of the stuff that Lottie kind of embedded in the girls when they were in the wilderness about how the wilderness can protect them, but it requires a sacrifice. So as she's going through that and Thais is watching over her, Misty is still kind of having a back and forth with Shauna, especially about how bad of a friend she is. And rather than take being held accountable and taking criticism, Shauna instead decides to just abandon Misty, Thaisa, and Van in some town that's not even named, somewhere between New Jersey and Virginia, and she goes off on her own to confront Alex. And when the episode ends, she's in front of Alex's house. So get into a bit of a other noteworthy information type of thing. I think it's very interesting to note that Shauna said that both Melissa and Jen died. And the reason why this is something of note is because after Van's survival in season 1, it is worth questioning, since Cody shot Melissa with a crossbow. Could she have possibly lived? I mean, granted, she was shot right here in the chest. There's no real medical stuff that they have access to, and because of how they did Ben, he can't even bring up the stuff he had. And granted, Hannah could bring up that she knows where there's a cache of stuff, but is anybody amongst them a nurse to really treat a wound like that, never mind handle internal bleeding? It's hard to say. The only thing that can be said for sure is that with Shauna saying that Melissa's dead, unless we're going to look at Shauna as an unreliable narrator, we should assume she's dead. And on top of that, she notes that Jen has also died. Now, how did she die? Was she pit girl? It's hard to say. But with that said, that only leaves Akila and also Mari to be someone's living. And though I'm of the camp of originally thinking that when Hilary Swank came on, she was going to be one of the surviving Yellowjackets, it seems less and less that might be a possibility now. I mean, she could be Alex's guardian, maybe her aunt. It's rather hard to say, but I have to admit, as we're going to the review section, with the reveals of this episode, I don't know if the excitement for Hilary Swank showing up is really there anymore. Getting to the review section, I have to admit, with this episode, it felt less like the past and the present were two independent shows thinly connected, and more like there was a full thick brick bridge connecting the two. Because with everything that's going on in the past, finally really having a connection to the present beyond just acknowledging the trauma that these women went through, it makes me actually enjoy the present day a bit more, rather than feeling like the present day is highly reliant on famous names to justify its existence, rather than just purely focusing on what happened in the wilderness, the young ladies getting back to civilization, how they dealt with that, and going on from there. The second highlight for us, and it's not a strong highlight, I'll admit, is that with Doc Thaisa popping up, being next to Van from the 90s years, and just the whole hallucination thing, it really does push me to acknowledge that as much as Thaisa has been a consistent disappointment throughout this entire season, maybe even beyond this season, there is something still there that makes you want to give her grace, make it so that you hope that eventually she is going to earn her spot and surprise you. And I know that Doc Thaisa is pushing the idea that she's going to do something to save Van is not necessarily as big as the No-Eyed Man or the possibility of Thaisa killing Lottie to save Van, but it's something. And I so badly, when it comes to Thaisa and Van, want something to be there and justify their existence on this show, never mind up until season 3 beyond them being a lesbian couple, and that pretty much being it. With all that said though, when it comes to Hilary Swank, it seems in preview she's finally going to show up in the next episode, and the previews don't really give you a strong sense of who she is. But I have to admit, with the track record of this show, I don't necessarily have much of the way of excitement. And mind you, this is coming from someone who, back before streaming was a thing, I used to really try to find, and even really back in the day, even rent Hilary Swank films, because I liked her as an actress. Her, Natalie Portman, and a few others. But I don't feel like with the way Yellowjackets is going that it's really going to be able to tap into what she can offer the show. And I think, as has been shown by Christina Ricci and also the woman who plays Shauna, are there some times when definitely they do show that they know how to write these people and give them something? Absolutely. But as shown, only really Sean has been consistent. Everyone else may have a spotlight and they do well for an episode, but it's never like 2, 3, 4 episodes, and maybe you get a little grace episode when you're not the star, you're not doing well, so you get a break. And bringing on yet another actor who, never mind, is not only massively talented but also an Oscar winner, it feels more like prestige that's good for the show in terms of marketing than something they're really going to use in order to push this show forward and take it, especially for the modern times, where it needs to be in order to make it a consistently worthy part of this show, rather than what can often feel like a liability in terms of storyline and only really beneficial because of name recognition of the actors. But overall, at this point, with I think 2 or 3 episodes left of this season, Season 3 is not as much of a slump as Season 2 sometimes was, but I don't feel like we're moving in a positive direction much, mainly because of the more modern 2022 times. Back in the 90s, things are still going good, they're progressing well, especially with the possibility of the girls getting rescued, or at least the first catalyst of them being rescued being done. But modern times, even though it's starting to actually benefit because it's more closely connected to what's happening in the past, now the question is, can it keep being consistent? And as noted with The Equalizer, which also had the same issue of having things feel a little bit too separate within the same show or episode, if the cohesion continues, again, things will go good. But if it goes back to how things were and it was felt very separate, then I don't see how this show is going to last to the 5 planned seasons that I keep seeing noted around, because honestly, there's so little that the adult side can give that it doesn't seem like it would make sense to keep going on in the future when everything interesting, as said in the past of you, is happening in the past.